I want you to picture a scene with me. It's July 25th, 1984. We're in Baghdad, in the Al-Harithiya neighborhood.
Right.
And it's the middle of summer, so the heat is just oppressive, probably over 110 degrees. Inside, a man named Abdul Jabbar Al-Wayli is sitting at his desk. He's writing. But he isn't writing a diary or, a novel.
No. He is doing something that, frankly, borders on suicidal, given the context. He's writing a series of open, unsolicited letters to the most powerful ministers in the government.
To the Minister of Oil, the Minister of Education.
The Minister of Information, yeah.
Yeah.
He is essentially lecturing the state on how to run itself.
We have to just pause on the context here because I think it's easy to miss just how dangerous this was.
Oh, absolutely.
In 1984 in Iraq. This is not a time for, let's say, vibrant town halls and open feedback.
Not even close. You have to understand, the country is deep into the war with Iran. The regime is at the absolute height of its power.
People disappeared for whispering a joke in a coffee shop.
Exactly. Security services were everywhere. So for a private citizen to sit down and write, "Your Excellency, you are doing this wrong," isn't just bold. It's a death wish.
And yet he did it. And we have this collection, Letters of Al-Wayli, to whom it may concern. What we're diving into today isn't just a list of complaints. It feels like a blueprint.
It's a roadmap for a modern state that never quite came to exist. A tragedy of missed potential, really.
When you read it, you see he's offering a top-to-bottom reform plan.
Everything, from the psychology of a first grader to, the macroeconomics of the petrochemical industry.
The tone is what threw me. I expected him to be angry, or maybe, I don't know, really timid. But he's neither.
He threads a very, very difficult needle. He's incredibly polite. He uses all the formal titles, Excellency, my master. But beneath all that, there's just steel.
He talks about prioritizing expertise over what he calls whims or al-awa.
He's effectively telling these leaders, I respect your title, but if you ignore the data, history will destroy you. He warns them that history is a ruthless judge.
So we have a man risking his life to deliver a lesson in governance. Let's unpack this roadmap. We've got his vision for the press, his radical ideas for education, and his survival strategy for the economy.
And that economic section is going to be the heavy hitter today. Because when you see what he predicted about oil in 1984, it just sends a chill down your spine.
Okay, let's start at the foundation. Before he even addresses the government, he writes a letter to the Iraqi people.
This is where he sets the moral ground rules. He starts with a warning that feels, timeless. He tells people to be wary of leaders who speak with the eloquence of religious figures.
He mentions Imam Ali specifically.
Right, who is revered for his wisdom and justice, but whose actions are tyrannical. It's the ultimate wolf in sheep's clothing warning.
He also quotes the Egyptian writer Abbas Mahmoud Al-Aqad, and it's a pretty harsh quote to throw at your own people.
Well, it is, but it's necessary. Al-Aqad wrote, "A corrupt people cannot have a righteous government, and a righteous people cannot live under a corrupt government."
So he's holding a mirror up to society.
Exactly. He's saying the government is just a symptom. If you accept corruption in your daily life, you will get corrupt leaders. He's refusing to let the average citizen off the hook.
Which sets the stage for his letter to the Minister of Information. Now, in a regime like that, Minister of Information is basically Minister of Propaganda.
Right. But Al-Wayli has a very different job description in mind. He says the press has become a tool for praise and glorification.
Just an echo chamber.
An echo chamber telling the ruler how great he is. Al-Wayli argues the true role of the press is to be a monitor, a rakib. Its job is to reveal faults, not to hide them.
But, people talk about supporting writers all the time, and it's usually just vague platitudes. Al-Wayli has a specific policy proposal.
I love how specific this is. He suggests the Ministry of Information should legally commit to buying 500 copies of any book that gets approved by a neutral committee.
500 copies? That seems oddly specific. Is that just a handout?
It's not a handout. It's a jumpstart for the market. Think about it. You're an intellectual, you write a book, but printing it costs more than you make in a year.
And publishers won't touch it unless it's a guaranteed bestseller.
Exactly. Al-Wayli says, no. The state guarantees the purchase of 500 copies at cover price.
So if I spend 2 years writing a book, I know I'll at least break even.
You'll cover your costs, maybe have somebody to write the next one. But here's the genius part. The government doesn't just store those books. They distribute them.
To public libraries, schools.
Universities, all across the country. It's a closed loop. You fund the author, you fill the library shelves, and you raise the intellectual level of the next generation. It democratizes knowledge.
Speaking of knowledge, let's move to that next pillar, education. Because his critique of the education system sounds like something you'd hear today.
It is frustratingly timeless. He complains that the system is producing graduates with certificates but no skills.
He paints this picture of a man who can quote poetry, but if a fuse blows in his house, he's helpless.
Totally helpless. He has to call a neighbor.
So he wants to build a practical citizen. And his solution is this 3+3 system, which sounds wild to me. Can you break that down?
It's a complete restructuring of the school week.
Yeah.
So instead of 6 days sitting in a classroom, he wants 3 days of traditional academics, math, history, language.
Yep.
And 3 days of purely technical vocational training.
So Monday through Wednesday, I'm learning algebra. Thursday through Saturday, I'm under a car hood.
Under a car hood, wiring a circuit board, framing a house, mechanics, electricity, carpentry. But you have to see the social engineering behind this. It's not just about creating more plumbers.
He's trying to break the stigma of manual labor.
Yes, he hates that distinction. You know, the smart people work at desks and other people work with their hands. He wants a society where the doctor and the engineer both know how to use a wrench.
It fosters self-reliance.
It grounds the intellectual class in reality. And think about the economic impact. You don't have a shortage of technicians because everyone is a technician to some degree.
He also throws in this idea for free reading, and he's really strict about the rules.
He says the teacher should not interfere at all, not even a suggestion. A period every day where the student goes to the library, picks whatever book they want, and just reads.
Why so adamant about the teacher staying out of it?
Because he sees the school system crushing independent thought. If everything is assigned, nothing is discovered. He wants to nurture the hobby, that personal passion. You can't force a kid to love reading. You have to let them get lost in a story.
But he knows that's not enough to survive the late 20th century. He sends a separate, really urgent letter to the Minister of Scientific Research.
He warns that the world has moved into the age of technology. He looks at the moon landing, at computers, and says Iraq is falling behind. His main critique is about consumption. He says, we are a nation that buys but does not build.
We buy the TVs, we buy the radios, but we have no idea how the magic box works.
Precisely. He calls for factory schools where production and education are merged. It's not enough to study the theory of electronics. You need to be on a line building the radio.
It's a vision of total self-sufficiency, which leads us right into the third pillar, the economy, which is where he really gets critical.
This is where the rubber meets the road. He writes to the ministers of economy, finance, and oil. And right off the bat, he tackles ideology.
This is the Cold War. Everyone is picking sides, capitalism or socialism.
And he just says, don't be a slave to names. He's a supreme pragmatist.
He tells them to stop debating these abstract religions.
He says, look at the geography, look at the nature of the country, and let the experts decide. If a socialist policy works for agriculture, use it. If a capitalist approach works for industry, use that.
Before we get to the oil, though, I want to touch on his view of the government itself. He writes this stinging letter about bureaucracy. He uses the phrase disguised unemployment.
This is a classic example. He describes a government department with 900 employees. But when you actually look at the workflow, maybe 50 people are doing the real work.
And the other 850 are just collecting a salary.
Showing up, drinking tea, reading the paper. He calls it unemployment masking itself as work, and he wants to slash the civil service to save funds.
Okay, we fixed the schools, we fixed the bureaucracy, now we have to pay for it all. And this brings us to the black gold.
The oil.
Al-Wayli writes to the Minister of Oil, and he doesn't sound celebratory. He sounds terrified.
He is anxious because he understands something the leadership ignored. He calls oil a depleting resource. He explicitly says this will run out.
But hold on, if you have billions of dollars of oil, why not sell it? It's easy money.
Because of the value chain. This is the multiplier effect. Let's say you sell a barrel of crude oil for $30. That's it. You get $30.
Okay.
But if you take that oil and refine it, turn it into plastic pellets, that barrel is now worth $100. If you take those pellets and mold them into car bumpers or medical devices, that same barrel is now worth $500.
So by selling the crude, you're basically donating that extra $470 of value to whoever buys it.
You are giving away the wealth. You are exporting the jobs. Al-Wayli was screaming that Iraq was acting like a colony supplying raw materials for other nations to get rich. He demands a petrochemical industry. Don't sell the oil, sell the plastic.
He calls it a tragedy. We're selling our future to buy lunch today.
And he links this to the private sector. He writes about a ghost haunting the country.
The ghost of nationalization.
For anyone who didn't grow up in that era, what did that actually mean for a business owner?
Imagine you work hard, save money, open a factory. It does well. Suddenly, the government decides that your product is a strategic resource. They show up with soldiers, take your keys, and tell you it now belongs to the people.
Why would anyone ever build a factory? They wouldn't. That's his point. The money stays hidden under mattresses, or it leaves the country. He urges the government to issue clear, binding guarantees. We will not take your factory.
He argues that you need the private sector to scare the public sector.
To force them to compete. He says the government factories produce junk because they have a monopoly. If you allow a private factory to make the same product, the government, one, has to improve its quality or go bust. He wants that friction.
He's not calling for pure capitalism, but he's definitely calling for market incentives. He even looks beyond the borders, doesn't he? He has this vision for an Arab common market.
This connects back to his pragmatism. He sees all the Arab nations competing, all trying to do the same things. He suggests integration based on specialization. Let Sudan be the breadbasket.
Right, because they have the land.
Let another country focus on heavy industry, another on finance.
Stop competing and start completing each other.
He argues that if the Arab world integrated economically, they could be a superpower. But as long as they're fragmented markets, they're weak.
So we have this incredible document, a man in 1984 sketching out a world where the press is free, students are skilled mechanics, oil is turned into plastic locally.
And he's doing this while the sound of artillery is probably audible in the distance. When you read the end of his letters, you feel his sincerity. He keeps saying he's speaking from a humble position. He's just a citizen who sees the truth.
He warns the leaders not to be surrounded by yes men who hide reality.
That connects right back to the press. If you surround yourself with people who only tell you what you want to hear, you drive the car off a cliff. Al-Wayli was trying to the passenger, grabbing the wheel, saying, look at the map.
But the car went off the cliff anyway.
It did.
So why does this matter to us? Why should someone listening today care about a failed reform plan from 1984 Iraq?
Because it's not just about Iraq. It's the universal tragedy of ignored expertise. How many times, even in our own lives, do we see the person with the data being ignored because the boss just wants to hear good news? Al-Wayli is that voice in the wilderness.
It strikes me that his core argument was about dignity.
Absolutely. A fair wage respects dignity. A useful education respects dignity. Freedom of expression respects dignity. But he was practical. He knew dignity costs money, and money comes from a sound economy, not from chanting slogans.
You needed national industry.
A self-sufficient nation that feeds itself and clothes itself. That was the dream.
It leaves you with this heavy what if. He wrote these letters 40 years ago. He explicitly warned that oil would run out and a nation without its own industry is doomed.
He saw the cliff coming. He drew the map to the off-ramp, and the letter probably sat in a drawer unopened.
Looking at the region today, the instability, the economic struggles, you have to ask, could the last 40 years have looked completely different if those letters had been read?
It's one of the great what-ifs of the 20th century.
A huge thank you to everyone listening to this deep dive into the mind of Abdul Jabbar Al-Wayli. It's a reminder that sometimes the most important voices are the ones writing quietly at their desks, hoping someone will listen.
Indeed. Keep reading, everyone.
See you next time.